music is good. Welcome to your reading. It's the same night as the last reading, but I kind of just started pulling cards, and this is a really cool spread. I was thinking about just making it tomorrow, but I heard thank you for your last video. I'm like, I know you're not talking about the last one I did, so let me make this a quicker one because the last two have been like an hour long. So if you're not into the longer form things, like let me make this one quick and fun for you still. But you were sent here for glory. You were sent here for glory. um, Nibiru and the brigand dragon, the glory dragon, right? You were sent here for glory. You were sent here to bond with that dragon. I'm hearing like, yeah, and on the back of this, I was exactly thinking of Naruto, like the bond between Naruto and Kurama. Naruto and Kurama is like the bond between you and like your soul, your phoenix self. Like you're here to rise. You're here to rise. You bonded with that dragon, bonded with that monster. Now together you rise. Together you rise. And again, like getting a confirmation from the Holy Spirit that you really are this dragon that devours the dogma. Again, like dogma can be anything, not just like religious dogma, not just like worldly dogma. Dogma can be anything. The issue in something that it takes like a higher vibration to say, hey guys, like is this really worth it? Is this like really an issue? Is this really something that we should be focusing on? And that's the thing. It's like something you can't control. You should never focus on. Like the people that haven't really like gone into that higher frequency of being able to let things go and also hold on to the good. It's like they kind of get upset over the small, and you could say you know how would I say this? It's like more of a more susceptible to, you could say, like worrying about something that doesn't need to be worried about, or arguing about something that doesn't need to be argued about, or like you are like the problem solver. That's what I'm hearing. Like you are the problem solver, and because you like devour all the dogma that you could say like people that haven't awakened to the things that this collective has. It's like you are the one, the outlier. You are like the wild card that you know you wield spirit like in your voice to be able to get through to people that like you really do light work and shadow work for a lot of people. Like full on, you use spirit to guide them into that higher frequency, even if you have to like match theirs for like halfway of it. It's like you are like having to get into that argument, even like get into that standoff and say like, hey guys, like I see both of your sides, but there's this, and like why would you worry about this, and we can always count on this and cherish this. So it's like, why are we fighting, kind of thing. It's like it's a beautiful thing that you do. And the Father, Son, Holy Spirit is saying, go forth and be my wild card. Like he's drawing you in those, in the last reading, me breaking up that fight. It's like you are the wild card. You are the wild card. And let's see here. 1 second. I think yes, that was from the last reading. So Christ is saying, like the Father, Son, Holy Spirit saying, go forth. This, like you dragonly, right? Even if you're like just starting out, even if you're just awakening, go forth. Be in that joy. Know that you are like a literal avatar of the game, as Yui is, right? Like you are again. You're like walking on the path. You walking is creating the path for the future, because like you are an avatar of the planet, of the game, of Source, of Father. It's like of the Son and the Spirit, right? And even like the Father, Mother, right? It's like you are the source of it all. You are the walking joy. And like get excited. I'm hearing get excited. Like you can see she has like her hands up, like I'm ready to do what? To fly close to the sun. To fly close to the sun. And again, we've had it before. Like that's who we are, you guys. We are a fellowship that loves and it gets excited about flying too close to God. It's like we are in God's airspace, like kind of thing. It's funny. And funny enough, it's like as we said, when the sister kind of like with Lloyd, I forget. I can't believe I don't have her name memorized. It's embarrassing. I love that show so much, and I talk about it so much. But when she's saying, like Lord, like I love being heretics together. It's like you treasure the forbidden knowledge. Like even like I'm hearing like some like Gnostic knowledge kind of things. Like you treasure like universal cosmic knowledge that can be like resonated through every every yeah, like heating up every religion, even like every culture, every way of doing things spiritually, every spiritual practice, like you love that forbidden knowledge. It's like your treasure. It's like what's gotten you here to this point. Like you've tested it all, you've read it all, you've tried it all, you've prayed about it all, even practiced it all and preached it all. Even sometimes it's like it's you are you're like that you treasure that forbidden chalice of knowledge and you turn it into wisdom that can resonate with everything you've learned, not just like sticking to one thing and saying, okay, this is what I know and I'm going to preach it like it's my last like breath, you could say. It's like, no, like I have read all this, I have heard about all this, even like heard about all like the heresy and all like the blasphemy, even I've read all like the secret, the occult. It's like you've studied it all, you've had all that forbidden knowledge, and you see it as like a treasure. And like again, like Christ is saying, like go forth and walk those steps, right? Like walk Jacob's ladder. Like I don't know why I'm hearing that, but it's like walk the stairway to heaven, right? Like walk the stairway to heaven. You can consider like you go on, like think about like a peyote, like ayahuasca trip. It's like that's like you could say like cheating. It's like that's like you're like just like leaping up or like taking an elevator to heaven, you could say. It's like Christ is saying like take those steps because every step of that like forbidden knowledge was like a secret treasure that you were supposed to like even at the very least consider, right? Car went by right as I said that. I got a car message, you guys. Awesome, super rare. Even just considering it being true, 639, like even considering your heart saying like yes, like this could really be true. It's like that was a sacred step, that was like a treasure for you to find, and you found it. And just like Lord of Mysteries, the potion digesting of like their pathway, like a seer, a bunch of things. It's right. It's a how do I say this? Like you're digesting you're digesting the fountain of youth. You're digesting the liquid in that forbidden chalice, like in that. And like look how cool this art is. It's like that's so us. Like just like. And like her pinky is almost out. It's like we're just drinking tea. Like we're drinking forbidden knowledge, forbidden chalices, like tea. Like we're having all that knowledge be poured into us like it's a tea party. Like we're just having a tea party with God. We're just like sipping like this is ease. Like this is really good tea. And it's like some crazy knowledge that when you were like in the start of your seeking journey was like you'd be like no, like there's no way. Like oh my gosh, like how, is this real kind of thing? And you're just like cool, like that's pretty cool, yeah, that makes sense, that could be true. And you just move on, like you're living in the present moment again. You're not like stuck to that like way of like I've got to do it this way, or it's like I could be going against God. It's like like you are so like, you guys remember being that kind of being, right? Like do you remember? It's like I do, and it's like it's a crazy thing to look back and think about how far we've all come together as like people that understand God together. And you are this shining light of source in the abyss, right? You are this like shining light of source in like the deepest parts of the abyss, of the void. Like, and again, like we've all had to like literally like made an abyss, like go down the layers, and it's like you can't go back. Like it's like physically there's like the curse of the abyss, like a thin layer that if you go up, you like basically like melt, like you just like collapse, right? And it's like that's the whole thing of the abyss. It's like we don't know what's at the very bottom, but like there are people that have gone down there. There are people that have been through that abyss, got a little down the. It's like you are, like again, like we see the card all the time, free falling into that abyss. Like and the lights are kind of flickering. This is kind of cool. Never seen them do this this often, but it's like that's what I'm like really like it's like really powerful stuff, you could say. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, it's like really powerful stuff. And here's the cool thing. It's like you have all this knowledge, right? And most of the time, like again, people that have like said they can't talk to anybody, like you have turned silent, and like you say like turn silent if you can't see the text. It's a little hard to see in the during the night readings, but and like you say is like a very silent character. Like he does not speak unless he needs to. Like even like when like everyone's talking in the group, you could say like he says like one word. Like you have turned silent to that like it's hard not to want to talk about every kind of thing that you figure out, have revelations about. Some people like not only like wouldn't even like consider believing it. It's like Christ spoke in parables for a reason, but it's like they would like rather be in the dark. They would rather be like spiritually blind. It's like you couldn't get to them if like they agreed to sit down with you for an hour and like talk about the universe, talk about God, talk about source, talk about spirit. It's like talk about being Christ, even like being the Father, as we've seen in certain readings before as well. Like they would like be like, well, okay, I mean, like I get it, but like, what is that? Like, what do you do? And you just be like, well, like you're right. Like I couldn't, like I couldn't like see you like going on some crazy seeking journey. Like, it's like people that, are just like convinced that this life is it. Convinced that like, they don't know what's next. Like for us, it's like, if anything, like we were sent here like for like the reason, and it's like we've already accomplished that reason. Now again, like we're teaching fellow gods and goddesses, right? About, oh, speaking of, it's like, I would never want to like, call someone out or anything, but I did tell everyone that I would use the comments in the readings as well, and people have appreciated that. But someone was like, that's goddess to you, lol. I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but I don't think you've been around here for a while, because one, like 90% of the time I'd say gods and goddesses whenever it comes up. But I also mentioned that like most of us are, both us gods and goddesses are not only happy, but like accepting, or not only accepting but happy that we can like we are comfortable with being both, like full on, right? We have both within us. It's like we like here's what I would say, like when we are around in the presence of other people, right? It's like that goddess in me hardly comes out. Maybe in my giggles, right? Maybe in the giggles that you guys hear in my readings, that's like my goddess part. If anything, like my spiritual life within me, right? But it's like when I go outside, I'm not like being a goddess. I'm being a god, you could say. Goddesses, like you could maybe say the same thing. Like you have that like that God side of you, of that like like imagine like the masculine version of you, and us gods, imagine the feminine version of you. It's like it's the divine of each anyways, and that is of course inside of you, as it's all the balance, polarity, yin and yang. It's kind of the same thing, and like one is the light, one is the shadow. Sometimes some are like both the light. It's like you understand that, at least most of us understand that we have both within us, and each of like that's a cool thing to say. Both the divine masculine and the divine feminine within each of us has ascended to godhood, right? So it's like each part of us, masculine and feminine, has ascended to godhood. Like, isn't that a cool statement as well? And I truly believe that how do I say this? I don't like to say like it's like you, because I hate the word like the term using people, but it's like God uses those conversations, and even some seekers that you could say are like they don't really understand that, like the true seekers like would never want to like hurt someone, or like brand someone as a certain gender, even accidentally. It's like, who cares? That's what I was trying to say. It's like, if anything, the true seekers and the true understanders believe they have both within them, and gotten to a point where both the masculine and feminine within them has ascended to godhood. And that's like, isn't that a beautiful thing to say that both of the parts of you have ascended to godhood, right? Isn't that like the whole point, the whole plan? I could say even like Christ had that part of him. Like I'm feeling that, to be honest with you, like rubbing my hands together, like yeah, like hold on. And that's the thing. It's like you're connecting those two parts, and those parts within you. Like when you like going like this, or like just finger tapping kind of thing. It's like you are of course connecting both sides of the hemispheres of your brain. But when you fully develop and accept and kind of like almost bathe in each part of you, the masculine and feminine, to a certain degree, where they both become like beautiful. They both become beautiful and understanding, and like each of the other, right? And to the point where they both reach godhood. Maybe like if you're like a man, your godhood usually, or sorry, your God version usually reaches first, and then you kind of develop that feminine side to a point where even that feminine side reaches godhood. And same with the goddesses. That goddess side usually you reach first, and then you have like that epiphany of like, yeah, like I definitely have the God in me as well, and like you ascend that with you as well. And I think that happens for everyone eventually. And I think that that it really, how do I say this? Yeah, like 10:43 p.m. or 10:43 on the actual time. Like I love you. I think that spirit really saying that we are all able to not only have that side, not only develop those sides, right, but ascend them both into godhood. And I think that's like like a different kind of becoming a master that maybe hasn't even been like talked about a whole lot. At the very least, ascending them both to godhood. Everyone has talked about the masculine and the feminine, even the divine masculine and the feminine, and that you could say is like some people like say like the divine and the sorry, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, right? But I haven't heard many people talking about like the individual divine masculine and the individual divine feminine both being able to ascend each other into godhood in the same vessel. And I think that's like, what everyone's doing here. It's like, even here's the cool thing, it's like I never would have thought of this really. If for, a long time I have this like very like beautiful friend, like a guy named Henry, he's like just gorgeous, like full on like, true like male model, right? And there was one time where we were on the doors, right? In door-to-door sales, and like we all lived in like this hotel, so we would have like some pretty cool deep conversations, when we were like really like worked out hard, like like that day was horrible, so we'd have some really deep conversations, right? And I talked to Henry one night. He's like, yeah, like one time when I was like, I basically like, took mushrooms one time, and I was just in the bath, like just like really feeling like a girl, like just like being like all giggly and like like feeling like he's like a girl taking a bath as a guy, and that's like I never would have like been able to like almost like accept this kind of like revelation fully if I didn't hear that in a time where I wasn't even on a seeking journey. It's like just him saying that and being this beautiful soul. Like he's such a nice and kind person, and he's like so pretty, to be honest with you. Like full on that like if anyone would be deserving of like a full on like ego that is like, okay, like I'm basically like I'm like a rare breed, you could say, it's this guy, and he has the most kind heart ever, and the most like genuine listening to you, and genuine like no ego at all. Like he's like he understands that he is the universe, and hearing that from him like has connected all the way from when I wasn't in the seeking journey to all the way until now, of having this exact revelation of, again, not only having that time that you fully are in that vibration, you are in that god or goddesshood, right? That to the point where it's you get used to it, and then you kind of incorporate it into your everyday. You don't you don't go outside and be that, right? The other half, right? At least like with like sometimes it comes out passively. It's like it can be anything, right? And but like again, like ascending both of those into godhood, I think it's like a very cool thing. And funny enough, you retaliating against retaliation C, you retaliating, like you beginning to be like, what, I'm just gonna figure it all out. I'm not gonna like stick to anything's like way of doing things, like again, religion, dogma, anything, people, confirmation, it's a you retaliating at that point. That's exactly when your highest self grabbed you. Yeah, gotta wrote down though. That's exactly when your highest self said, I know you can do this. You're the one. You're the me that will do this. I know it. Like maybe there's like infinite timelines, and because you retaliated against like the normalcy of most things, got a little pop. That's when your highest self grabbed you and said, now like you are my vessel. Like even if like your godhood self, right, could pick any timeline of you, like you were the one in this timeline, and look what happens. Like there's so many of us where that happened. It's like a very cool thing. And again, just like it looks kind of like here, it's exactly like this. So it's like that happened, right? That happened, and you fused, or maybe go this way. You were this like you have developed, right? And you were this shadow dragon, like you were like still a dragon, still like a shadow, right? And then when you retaliated, this is what happened. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like you were grabbed by your true light. Like even when you were this shadow, like with light only here and here, like you were grabbed by your highest self, because you retaliated against like the normalcy and like the fear of being called a goddess, being called a god, and like being comfortable with that, not only not being nervous about it, like I was saying in the last reading about anything, right? But acting upon that. Awesome. So just as in the last reading, right? Like near the end, you literally fight with your soul, and not only do you do that, you are this like full on, like this is like the Sky Striker card. Like you are a wielder of blade. You are like the 0 point, and like think about 0 being the void as well, right? Like you are the wielder of your own soul, because you decided to be that void, as we always talk about here, and becoming purple. So like, let's go. I'm pretty tuckered out from a pretty long day. I haven't like actually gone that hard in the gym in a while, or even gone to the gym in a while. So it's like again like sometimes you don't realize how much energy you use in a day as well. So it's like if you just feel randomly tired, like you just you're like you're using a lot of energy. So like the past week of 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, I've only gained energy. It's like it's a strange feeling to be out of energy again, but funny enough, like doing these readings gets my chi back for me. Like no matter what, it's like I'm like breathing and speaking without even breathing, without even like trying, right? It's like that's what these readings do. That's what that's when the spirit really comes through. So thank you all for being here. It's been a very fun reading, a very cool one that I didn't expect to do. I was gonna ask for a card, but we have two. Yes. It's like so ages of stars and frost, and you used to be this shadow being, and now like you're a star. Now you're a star. Like you didn't know, you weren't like certain about this age, right? You weren't certain, and then boom, now it's the ages of stars. It's not age of frost anymore, it's the age of stars, and you have fused with your true light. You have fused with your highest self. Very proud of all of you. Thank you all for being here, and I'll have a reading in the morning. That's for dang sure. Thanks for supporting even the long form readings. I really appreciate you guys. And if you've watched like 30 seconds of it, like I appreciate it anyways. And I love you all. Thank you so much for all the support. Let's keep going together, and keep rising in the light of our true selves, right? With the light, as the light of our true selves, because we are coming out of that age of frost, and our highest self has clasped our hands, and we are being pulled into that age of stars by our highest self. So let's go. That fires me up. Let's go, you guys. I love you so much.